Today I'm at NCMT. I'm with Tom, our resident in-house expert on machining. Now we're going to be looking at this Okuma GENOS machine. It's an L3000-e. Now this particular machine is available here, this one, from stock and can be delivered to you within a matter of days. But in order to buy a machine, there's got to obviously be a reason. This is a sub-spindle machine. It's got a y-axis, plus or minus 50 mil. It's got driven tools. So it's about one-hit machining, reducing operator intervention, improving productivity. Probably took a lot of the words out of your mouth there, Tom, but you're a very experienced machinist and, of course, part of the MTD team now. What is the advantage to companies and what problems did you face in your machine shop that this could have overcome?
So some of the problems we faced was if you got a part turned on a lathe and then it has to move to a miller, sometimes that miller is not available. If you've got a deadline and the miller isn't available, then you're not going to hit that deadline. So having a machine like this where you can do the milling aspect on it, you can hit them tighter deadlines because you're not moving from one machine to another. And also with it having the bar catcher, with a bar feeder, you set it up and you run it, and you can run it through the night. You don't need somebody to keep loading that tool or that part into the machine.
But what about the one head? And I'll move this way so the camera might want to go into the machine as well. What about the fact that you're not having to move that apart around, so the security of the process, there's going to be no mistakes on a machine like this?
Well, that's it, yeah. And also you'll be able to hit tighter tolerances, because if you've turned something and then you put it on a miller, that then relies down to an operator to clock that part up. So if you clock that part up and you've not clocked it exactly right, then the milling you put into it might not be in the right place compared to the turning part. Where if that part is coming off the machine and everything's done at the same time, there should be no issue with tolerances. And how often did you face the situation where you were having to, as you say, take the part off the machine and move it to a miller and the mill's not free? How often would that happen? And perhaps the people watching this will recognise that as a massive issue in machine shops. Oh, I bet we had this once a week. And the problem is you could get a customer who says, I need that part for Friday. So then it would be turned Wednesday, Thursday. You have a part on the miller that's set up that could run for a couple of days, which then you would have to break that entire machine down. You might even have to empty all the tools out because you need different tooling just to put this one part on. So then that part you had on before, the delivery date of that gets knocked back because you've emptied that machine of tooling, which then means you've got to reset that machine all back up again.
What about the capabilities of the milling on these machines, though, compared to what you would have on a machining centre? There is some argument to leverage the fact that these, in some instances, and I know this has got a lot of power, but you still can't do sometimes the same amount of milling on these as you can on a machining centre. Or can you? Is it down to strategy?
I think it's down to strategy. Maybe you haven't got the spindle power you would have on a miller, but what you will lose in how hard you can take a cut, how big you can take a cut, that the time you'd lose there on the machine would be nothing compared to you taking that component off the machine to then reset it up on the miller.
I understand exactly what you mean. There's a distinct advantage to milling on a VMC as to there is on turning, but again there's wins and losses, isn't there? And you've got to pick your fight correctly, but by doing one hit machining you're going to be able to produce the part more productively.
Yeah, and as we said, you can run this overnight, because if you've got the bar feeder, this will just run parts off and you've got the part catcher. If you're loading that into a miller, you've got to have an operator stood there loading each part. And in some instances, every part you load would have to be clocked up. So then that gives an operator a little place of error, where this is just running.
Time consuming, possibility for errors, more men needed, loads of factors. This Okuma GENOS machine, this is an entry-level machine from Okuma. This is affordable to all. There's lots of machine shops invested in NCMT's technology, and this one is available from stock now. Be quick. Perhaps drop NCMT an email at sales@ncmt.co.uk. Thank you very much for your wisdom and your insight, Tom.
Sorry.